Afternoon, and thank you for joining me here on the terrace this afternoon. I'm delighted you've joined me, and here, of course, for my video chat. What time is it? It doesn't make any difference. In fact, I don't know what time you're watching this. I'm just thankful that you're watching it, and again, thank you to everyone. Now, for my video chat today, I'm going to talk to you about frustration. My frustration, not your frustration. I get extremely bored and frustrated, and I'll tell you with what. There was once a book by Bob Geldof that wrote it was called "Is This It?" And I always face life with that title. Is this it? I can be doing something that I love, and all of a sudden I'll wake up one morning and say, "Is this it? Is this it? Is this what I am going to do for the rest of my life?" I'm getting bored with it, and it's a problem. It's not a good thing, not a good thing at all. I've been writing a book, a draft for a book, which I should really call "What's the Next Big Thing?" Over the last 10 years, I've been writing to it, and I'm just fricking through some of my drafts, and I came to this one, which was chapter 26. God, I've written a lot, and it starts off by saying, "Now that 2003 has finally arrived, and the frustrations of 2002, I don't know what was going on in 2002, I had hoped could be finally left behind." This is what I've written. But unfortunately, they hadn't, and I still felt I needed to find myself what I was looking for. Why was I still feeling unsettled? After all, everything seemed to be going so well. My radio show, Hi Magazine, and my charity work. The title of U2's big record, you remember that? I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And that was the sort of feeling that I had. Anyway, I remember going to my manager and my editor of the magazine and sitting down and being very honest with them. I was bored with the radio station, not so much with my broadcast, just with the whole outlook. I wasn't running. The radio station was Onda Cero at the time, and I was not in charge of that, not at all. I mean, it was one of the biggest radio stations in Spain, so Onda Cero International. And of course, they not controlled programming, but I was seeing it was getting very samey, as I feel now about a radio station that I know quite well. Samey. I like to move forward and not get frustrated. And that's what was happening with me. But I had this idea. So I went to my editor and my manager at the time and said, "Look, I have an idea for Hi Magazine. I want to take on OK Magazine." And Ola, they said, "Are you crazy? Do you know Richard Desmond who owns it?" Do I know Richard Desmond? I have another story about him and me. But do you know that he has poured millions into the launch of OK Magazine? He bought the rights to Michael Jackson's first child. I assume it was Michael Jackson's first child. And that's how he launched OK Magazine. Millions it cost him. How much are you willing to put in launching Hi Magazine in UK? And I said, we'll 100,000 is what I put aside to launch in UK. We wanted to launch it in Manchester first. Now, this was my idea. How do I take on OK Magazine and Ola or Hello Magazine? How would I ever take that on unless I could come up with something unique? And I did. So I sat down, as I said, with my manager and with my editor and said, "Look, let's launch Hi Magazine in Manchester, Hi Manchester. And all the celebrities and all the fashion and all that stuff, that's free in all magazines. The celebrities want to be in it. So I can get all these pictures, and like we do with Hi Magazine here in Marbella, we can get all that free, all that free, all that free. But what we can do different is that, let's say, Hi Manchester, for the 4 centre pages, like Donald Trump now, the 4 centre pages or 6 centre pages could be concentrated on what's going on in Manchester, all the parties and the charity dues and the concerts. Now, that's the difference. You're getting it. That's the difference between OK Magazine. You're never going to be in it. You're never going to be in it. But with Hi Manchester, that's where we'll launch, with Hi Manchester, 4 to 6 pages are all people from Manchester. And they'll be all right. They'll be all out to buy it. You see what I'm getting? Where I'm getting at. And what's the point of buying OK magazine, when you can buy Hi magazine, you might be in it. So anyway, and 4 pages per. Was it monthly or weekly? Jeez, I can't remember. Getting very old. But 4 pages or 6 pages should be plenty to cover all the parties. So I flew over to Manchester, and there I met with Nicola Smith. Nicola was Mandy Smith's sister, who's adorable and a wonderful person. She's amazing. She's very much now into hypnosis and all sorts of stuff like that. Congratulations, Nicola. But there she said she would work with me. She introduced me to someone else. And before I knew it, I had an office in the centre of Manchester. Then we went to see a lawyer about registering the name Hi Magazine. Well, let me just continue. Once Hi Magazine Manchester is gone, Hi Manchester's taken off, making me millions, then we'll have Hi Leeds and Hi Liverpool and blah, 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 blah. You're with my drift, aren't you? As Trump would say, you got my drift. Anyway, the lawyers, unfortunately, you can't use Hi. It was a registered name there. So we called it In. You'll see a front cover after this on my photographs. You'll see a front cover of In Magazine. So that was fine. That went very well. We launched In Magazine, got it all ready. And then I wanted to have a launch party. There I wanted to meet, well, potential advertisers. I'm pouring 100,000 of my own money into this. So I want to make sure that we can get it moving, at least. But the whole of Manchester, people I was meeting all the time, were very enthusiastic about the whole thing. Very enthusiastic. So Nicola Smith is very well known in Manchester, lives in Manchester. So she said she would organise the launch party and invite all the right people. And she organised the party in the living room, which was sort of one of the trendy places the trendy place in Liverpool, in Manchester. I'm sure people listening to this from Manchester know the living room. So she launched it there, and we said to her, there's a budget for that, which was quite high. We had bands and everything. I hadn't seen what she was doing. I'd never been in the living room, but I did fly in. I brought my editor from Marbella with me, and some other people from my magazine in Marbella. It's sort of a treat to come and have a look at what's happening there. This wasn't so much the launch, it was the introduction, if you get what I mean. There was no magazine yet. Anyway, I flew in and Nicola met me at the airport. It was almost brought me to the hotel. It was the Midland because it's very close to my new offices there. And she brought me there to get ready, and I don't know what night it was, Sunday night, whatever night it was. The restaurant was closed for me. Cost a few bob, that did. And then they picked me up and brought me to it. And it was fantastic. She had these sort of balloons, archways at the restaurant. You could see the lights. It was all happening. Anyway, I arrived there, and we had a table, obviously. And the entertainment began. And Nicola was fantastic. She was introducing me to all sorts of high flyers of Manchester. Oh, we love the idea of this magazine. We love the idea of this magazine. On and on they went. Anyway, I really met some big advertisers as well at the party. It was a fantastic party. Now, all of a sudden, who walks in but David Beckham? Now, England were, at that weekend, England were playing in Manchester, and he was the captain. That's why he was there, although he had Buckingham Palace, I think, there. And he was with, now I know nothing about football, he was with a guy called Gary Neville and someone else. I think that's who was with them, I'm not sure. So he walked in and he came straight over to my table. There was a great flurry when Beckham walked in. Actually, we were dressed the same in white T-shirts. You see the photograph, we looked like twins. I wish. And he came straight over to the table, not to me, I hadn't a clue who I was, but to Nicola, because Nicola Smith used to be married to engaged to Teddy Sheringham. That's another Man United player who was a great friend of David Beckham. And so David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, Posh Spice, and Nicola Smith and Teddy Sheringham were all best friends. So he came over to see her. So he sat down at the table right beside me. Then myself, David Beckham, someone else. My editor was sitting across from me, etc., and Nicola there. And Nicholas Smith sort of whispered in my ear, don't ask him for his autograph because it's low cred. Jeez, I'm sitting here with one of the most famous footballers in the world. I can't ask him for his autograph. Now, the night before, I was in Liverpool, between Liverpool and Manchester, somewhere there, hosting a charity do. I'll go into that. It was for Kirsty Howard. Do you remember the girl that was born with she unfortunately died last year. But I was hosting the evening there with all the Coronation Street people and everyone. That's another story. And at our table, you'll remember this, there were these disposable cameras for each person. It's like in weddings, you take photographs and you have a record. It's a great idea. I haven't seen it since. But being Jewish, I put the camera in my pocket. Why waste it? Anyway, I came back. So when I was sitting down at the table with Beckham and everyone, I realised I had the camera in my pocket. And geez, I wanted to get a photograph with him. But I didn't want low cred. I'm the publisher of this big new magazine. With that, someone came over to the table and said, a very nice man, polite man, said, David, do you mind coming over and saying hello to my wife? We'd love a photograph. And David said, he's such a nice person. He really is. And he doesn't speak like that. He speaks normally. David says, of course I'll come over in a moment. One thing I noticed, David had about 2 or 3 bodyguards with him, but they stood way back at the bar. And the only time I saw them move in any way is when David went to the gents' toilet. And they went and sort of stood at the door. And I asked them, you know me, nosy old Parker, why are you doing that? And they explained that it's sort of, some idiot would go in there and give David a punch or something to get into the newspapers. And they said, we realise at your party that's not going to happen, but it's a matter of habit that we do these things. And I said, fine. Anyway, Beckham sat down and we had a great chat and a great evening, a lovely time. And David all of a sudden said, I forgot to go over. And he got up and they had gone, the people. And he was really upset about that he didn't get the photograph. He wanted to be nice about it. So I really pulled my head off. I had the camera in my pocket. So I threw it over at my editor. And I put my arm around, you'll see the photo, I put my arm around and said, I don't want to disappoint you, David. Here, get your photograph taken with me. And we all had a good old laugh. We had a very good laugh. Anyway, the long and short is, just to wrap this up, it was a great party. And then for the next week, I went around with Nicola to meet the major advertisers who all loved the magazine. But there was one problem. This was January or February, something around that time. And each one of them had the exact same Jaguar Manchester, big real estate agents or developers. We love this magazine and for sure we're going to advertise with you. But we've our budget for the year, 2003 wasn't it? Our budget's gone. We've shot our budget, but we'll come in next year, 2004. Every one of them, except a few small ones. Which means I had quite a staff there, I had an office there, etc., etc. But we published the first magazine and we got it out. Now, it looked fabulous. It looked very, very good in Manchester. You couldn't have High Manchester, and the party was in it, everything was in it. But that was it. And I realised very quickly that my 100,000 investment is being eaten up in a big way. I mean, 25 or 30 grand of that alone went on the printing and the developing the magazine. Another 10 or 15,000 went into the party and the launch, I should say, of the party. And then there was the offices, the staff had to be paid and everything. So I could see the 100,000 disappearing like magic in front of my eyes. So I turned around to Nicola and I said, at the end of the month, I have to close this magazine down. I've never been bankrupt and I never want to go bankrupt. I'm going to close the magazine down. It was a great disappointment. And that's the difference between someone like Richard Desmond, etc., etc. Much cleverer than me. But timing was very important and I made a big mistake with that. And number two, if I had to wait a while for advertising to come in, I would have the millions behind me, which I didn't have to bring the magazine. So that was the end of that exciting period. It lifted me up. But little did I know, around the corner, something a lot more exciting was about to happen. And I'll tell you about that on the next little video chat with you. So thanks for joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed that little story. Oh, one other thing, may I remind you, my little clicker isn't working.